You cannot have somebody, a friend of mine, Jeff Sessions, who was on the campaign and who is an appointee. You're going to need to use the special prosecutor's statute and office to take, not just to recuse, you can't just give it to your deputy, that's another political appointee.
Now that, if you didn't recognize a Republican, a prominent one at that, Congressman Darrell Issa, who's calling for a special prosecutor in the Russia case. Now remember, he was, the face of a ton of probes here for Democrats. So it is interesting, especially coming from that voice, that he believes that's the track that needs to be taken. Now, speaking of independent prosecutor, that is the person he believes needs to be the person tasked as to whether or not there was communication between the Trump campaign and the Russians during the course of, obviously, this past election season. House Committee Chair in the Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, however, says no, there's nothing to see here. California Republican says no evidence of contact between the Russians and Trump. Nunes also is more worried about leaks than the administration's possible contacts with the Soviets. But Congressman Adam Schiff, the ranking Democrat on that very same committee, had the opposite to say.
There's no evidence that's been even received by the committee. We are still in the process of gathering documents, examining documents at the intelligence community offices. We've had no witnesses, issued no subpoenas. It's the beginning of the investigation, not the end. So we shouldn't be drawing any conclusions about what our investigation will show in terms of allegations of collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. If we're going to do this in a thorough and objective and nonpartisan way, we need to follow the facts wherever they lead and not begin with the conclusion as the White House would like us to do.
All right, I want to bring in our legal panel to get in this and a lot more. Jim Katsouras, he's a criminal defense attorney in Manhattan, sits on the board of directors of the New York City Criminal Bar Association, and he's frequently lecturing at New York Law School, bar associations in Queens and New York City. Doug Van Oys, founding partner of Carsten Van Oys, focusing on corporate misconduct and selected by the Legal 500 as one of the most influential trial lawyers in the country. Mayo Bartlett, attorney at the law offices of Mayo Bartlett PLLC and former chief of the Bias Crimes Unit at the Westchester County DA's office, and Mark Furnish, an adjunct professor at the Elizabeth Haub School of Law at Pace, and he's also argued for the U.S. Supreme Court, and probably most importantly, a fellow suffering Islander fan like myself. Although the late push here, to get that,
standing pat for the 8th year in a row.
Let's take what we can get. All right, listen. We are in a partisan time. This is a highly politicized time. I get all of that. I also know that there's concurrent investigations that the FBI is running. And while the House and the Senate may be running, it certainly isn't without precedent. But it also isn't without precedent, Jimmy, that we've done this before.
That's right.
Whether it's Watergate, whether it's Whitewater, whether it was Iran-Contra, we have gone to independent prosecutors to eliminate any pretense of that politics are driving an investigation. Do you think it's warranted here?
It's an interesting question. First of all, you need to look at the statute, the Ethics in Government statute, and you need to look at what is required under it. First, the Attorney General needs to find that a criminal investigation is warranted and that the Department of Justice cannot conduct it because there's a conflict. So I don't know whether we're there yet. And what's interesting is that optically, the appearance, you would say, yes, let's get an independent prosecutor. We should not have the administration's people investigating the administration. But I have to tell you, as I look and see what Director Comey's responses are to the White House asking the FBI to debunk the issue of contacts between them and him saying, no, we're investigating.
There is a lot of gray area about that reported conversation that took place. We also got as early as today from the FBI that they reportedly had asked to pay that British agent who had put together the dossier to have him continue to supplement that dossier. So clearly, you can read that a couple different ways. They needed him to advance it, or that they thought that he certainly had a lot of inroads and there's more there.
And that they're conducting an investigation irrespective of the administration's request that they back off. So
here's the thing.
I don't know.
Issa has already walked back this statement. It's published already. He says just what Jimmy says. There's no evidence of any criminal wrongdoing right now, so there's nothing to prosecute. Special prosecutor To prosecute what?
But wait, but Mark, here's my question. Let's say I even accept, even though, let's not dismiss the fact that already 16 different intelligence agencies have said the Russians not only attempted but succeeded.
Let's define terms. The Russians already, Comey and the deputy have come out and said the Times report was totally false in alleging that there were contacts between Trump's people and Russian intelligence. Naturally, there was contact between Russian citizens and Trump's associates.
You made a major leap. First of all,
the
Trump administration said they called it BS. They went to the FBI. The FBI says, no, we're not calling balls and strikes here, according to the administration.
Said you can quote us on background as saying the report was wrong.
According to the Trump administration.
And the report was wrong. Look, here's the point. Let them investigate to their heart's content.
But here's my problem.
I'm all for special prosecutor.
No,
let them investigate to their heart's content. They will find nothing. They will dress up in white.
How do you know?
Because they will dress up in white clothes like they did last night, behave like sore losers, obstruct the process.
That's my point.
Wait.
Well, you just heard partisanship.
And in 2 years, there will be a tremendous political price to pay because the election of Barack Obama and the election of Donald Trump shows that the American people are tired of politics.
Even though most of them didn't vote for him.
Tired
so my point is, Mark, stop talking. So here's my point. He's just proven why, even though I have more confidence in the Senate Intelligence Committee that could do this, Mark has just proven my point that the partisan baggage. Can someone else talk, Mark?
With an objective person,
gag him now. All right.
Bring back Ken Starr, the guy who was crooked in bail.
Stop and let other people talk.
He was a great independent prosecutor.
Right? Yes, exactly. He did a terrific job bailing too.
Wonderful.
So my point is, the partisan baggage that people bring to whatever side that they come to this with, the fact that you can have the chair of the Intelligence Committee say, yeah, there's no evidence here, nothing to do. They haven't even gotten any evidence. They haven't even gotten any testimony yet. How can there be evidence if they haven't even done the investigation? People are bringing their partisan hats on now, and the general public doesn't know what to believe. Don't you need an independent arbiter? Not all the time, but in this particular case, we know this much. They tried to impact the election. They tried to impact it on one side. The Russians.
Who's the Russians?
Okay, there we go. So
is
my
it
point to you is,
or is it Russian
if you're not going to talk over him, he's just going to talk over everyone.
Seriously, who are the Russians?
I think I understand your question.
It's like the unseen black hand.
When you're talking about law, and we've talked about this before, the appearance of impropriety, you can't. Once you have, it looks like the fix is in, or you just shouldn't be, you shouldn't be the one investigating somebody that you have a relationship with. At that point, an independent party has to step in. That, putting aside this case, that's something we have in the law, and something we deal with all the time.
We know the independent prosecutor statute has lapsed. It doesn't exist right now.
In a case like this, we know that there are investigations going on, and it's not unusual for Mr. Comey not to come out and make statements at this point. We saw what happened last time when he made statements, the hot water he got into. So when you look at a case like this, the initial investigation can be brought by Mr. Comey, the FBI, through the Senate, through the House. Eventually, if there is a situation where it looks like Mr. Sessions is probably making calls about Mr. Trump, President Trump, there probably would be an independent prosecutor that would have to come in.
Let them have an independent prosecutor.
Let them have
prosecutor to prosecute crimes. Now, an independent commission to conduct this investigation.
There's no suspicion of any criminal.
Of course there is.
No, there isn't.
No, Mark. Maybe for you, but you are alone in that.
No.
If you listen to the Intelligence Committee, and I'm going to let Mayo talk here, you can't talk. You got to talk over.
Evidence of criminal law.
The reason that you
That's
have,
why you have an investigation.
Let them investigate to their heart's content.
the reason you have an independent investigator is for the same reasons that Doug suggested. That if I'm investigating my own office, I may be possibly a little less inclined to find wrongdoing, and it goes toward the integrity, or at least a perceived integrity to the American people, that you have a full and fair investigation. An independent arbiter actually benefits the administration, in particular if there's nothing wrong there. And what happens, and what will happen there is it's very difficult to expect, whether it's a police department, a school district, anybody, any business, bailer, for them to investigate themselves. It gives much more appearance, at least, a much greater appearance of propriety when you have somebody else coming in, looking at it who's neutral.
Just remember when the Clintons called Starr, though, part of the great Republican conspiracy. Let me just say this. Let's assume there was massive Russian. No, seriously.
You're hurting your case by making everything in a Republican prism.
I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent.
Yeah.
Listen to me. So let's say there was massive Russian interference in the presidential election.
We already know
they
there
didn't
was.
interfere. They didn't cost the Democrats Congress.
How do you know?
They didn't. There's no allegation that they interfered.
So
with
wait,
any
Mark,
kind
your
of-
standard.
Wait a minute.
Wait. No, wait.
There's
You can't
no,
keep.
let me finish.
Keep
There's no
filibustering.
allegation that anybody interfered with the congressional elections.
Wait, so
the
what's your
state
standard?
Wait
President's
for
okay,
it.
but as
The
long as they don't
state
touch Congress?
gubernatorial elections or the state legislative elections. The Republicans swept all of that without any alleged Russian interference.
So if it's president,
let them investigate it to their heart's
okay, but
content.
Mark, here's the biggest
They
problem.
got crushed
You basically
because of their
said
policies are deeply
now you're
unpopular.
talking politics.
Deeply
You're talking
unpopular.
politics,
That's why
not
they
the law.
lost the election.
You're talking politics, not the law.
There's
the point
no
that you said
legal
is
method.
it's okay to screw the presidential, just not the congressional.
I said, let's
All right, let's take a
assume
break
that
here.
they
We
screwed
will
the
stay
presidential.
with
No
where the
effect
line
at all.
starts or stops in terms of who should investigate. Obama administration did a lot of policing of the police in the last few years. Civil rights investigations into troubled departments were not uncommon in the last couple. But the new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, surprisingly now says that creates more trouble than it solves. We'll talk about that after this.